What's up, guys? It's your boy Dalton here, back at it again with another deck profile. I'm bringing you my Smoky Darkness Dragon deck. Smoky only because of the smoky sleeves, because they are amazing. This deck does have a sideboard. I will show you that at the end of the main deck, but let's get straight into it, why don't we? Abygale SD is Buddy, because who doesn't like drawing? And I know I like to draw. Start off with Abygale Last Death Violence, the new impacts form of Abygale. I feel like it's quite easy to kick it off with this deck, especially the way I have it built. There are some times where I don't kick off his full ability, but at least I get the 10 cards. That's all that really matters for him, in my eyes, in this deck. Other decks are going to want to make sure he hits that 20 cards in drop zone and just go at him for a triple attack. Next, Void. I run that at 3 copies because Void is amazing. And honestly, he was the main focus when I first started building this deck, but then it kind of veered off, and I'm like, he's not the main purpose, but he's still a main contributor to the deck because when a monster is destroyed, deal damage to your opponent equal to its size is quite nice. Next, I have Gloomy Black Dragon Snake, Bal Zam at 2. Basically have it in there to get rid of black dragon cards on the field that I don't really need on the field, just to gain more gauge and draw a card. Run it at 2. I do have an extra copy in the sideboard, but that's for later. Still kind of testing it out at the same time. Haven't really ran into him so far, but still quite nice. Into size 1s, run 4 Jinxed Landfall, because I love my Jinxed Landfall. He's amazing. Basically, ability is Spectral Strike, and then if you have 4 more different Black Dragon monsters in your drop zone, his Spectral Strike switches from 1 to 4, and that's pretty scary on a size 1. Basically, 4 damage being dealt to your opponent. Next, I run 2 of Jet Black Grim Reaper Gaito. He's an amazing card. I feel like my best combo is with Jinxed Landfall and Gaito, just because my opponent doesn't want to let their monster get destroyed, because if they do, I get to burn them 4 damage and also have them mill their deck equal to the size of that monster, and then I gain gauge equal to it. More gauge. I remember back in the day when Black Dragons had problem with gauge. Gaito, Bal Zam help with that. Next, I run 2 Black Burst Death Napalm. Great size 1. It's a double rare. I love it just because it's, when he's destroyed, I can pay a gauge and my opponent mills the top 5 cards of the deck. Really fast way into getting into Last Violence. It's Last Violence, Final Violence. Yeah, Last Death Violence. It's a really easy way to get into that real fast. Next, I have 2 copies of Spine Chiller. Again, with Spectral Strike. That was the main focus of the deck, was Spectral Strike and Void. Then it kind of evolved into what you guys see it as today. Spine Chiller, basically Spectral Strike of 2. Little bit of a downside if I open him up. Obviously, that's why I only run him at 2, because if I open him, he's kind of a dead card because he can't really deal damage, especially if he's the only monster in hand. So he kind of fiddles out for me there. Next, I run 2 Black Superior Strength. I'm not going to try to say his name. Great card. Size 1 with Shadow Dive. And when your opponent has 4 cards or more in their drop zone, he gains plus 3,000 power and plus 1 crit. So basically, you can get over your Murakuros in Hero World with him. He is quite nice, especially since your opponent can't do much, especially if they run a monster in their center, if they don't have reducers or ways to nullify the attack still. And to wrap off monsters, obviously it's the buddy of the deck, Abygale SD. Pretty self-explanatory. 5 cards in your opponent's drop zone, draw a card, 15 or more, destroy a monster on your opponent's field. Pretty self-explanatory in my eyes. Let's move on over to my items. Items are a little small in sense because I want to run more. But this is what I have so far. I run 3 Blade of Laminate at, just because of Spectral Strike. It's Pay a gauge, 1 life, 6,000 power, 1 crit. Still can deal decent damage, but Spectral Strike of 2. I love it. Gets over a lot of different walls and so forth. Well, not too many walls. It helps get over walls and so forth. In my other item, I run 2 of Blood Drain Sword Buddyfight, mainly for draw power again. It's great for draw power, especially with Zeta in the mix now. It gets over Zeta quite easily. I'm pretty sure all forms at this moment, unless they use 10,000 D, but I hope they don't waste the 10,000 D on that. But otherwise, it's a great card. Shadow Dive as well. Just amazing. That wraps up my items. Off to spells. The key card of this deck, I feel. 4 Gate of Darkness Dragon. Basically, starting your opponent's main phase, pay a gauge and call up to 2 size 1. Size 1s or less from drop zone to the left or right. It's amazing, especially to get out SD again just to troll your opponent, or something. If I decide to add something that has an entrance skill of popping a monster on my opponent's field, great right there. Next, I run 4 Black Cloth Blade, basically for nullify and milling a card from my opponent's deck. I find it quite nice. Pretty self-explanatory. Of course, can't have a monster in your center, but that's all fine. You typically don't want to run a monster in your center, in my opinion. 4 Black Dragon Shields, because reducing is the new way of nullifying, unless obviously the monster can't be reduced. I love it. It's an amazing card, very self-explanatory. If you're not running it, you're a scrub. You are a scrub. Next, I run 3 Devil Stigmas. Basically, gauge in life. That's its main purpose. Not too great against Zeta, obviously, because Zeta is a final phase based deck, and that kind of stops Devil Stigma. Yeah, otherwise Devil Stigma at 3, basically in cahoots with Napalm to basically mill my opponent 5 cards. Next, Cage of Nightmares. Run that at 3. I would run it at 4, but I only have 3 copies at the moment. Basically, when a Black Dragon enters the field, your opponent mills a card. And then when this card is put into the drop zone, I can put a Black Dragon monster from my drop zone into hand. So basically, it's recycling. So I can basically recycle out my voids, especially if all 3 are in there with popping and so forth of this set spell. Next, I run 2 Darkness Rune. Kind of self-explanatory. Gauge, monster destruction, and soul popping. I feel like it's a staple at 2 in this deck. I used to run it at 4, but then the new set came out and I started adding in the newer cards. To round off the spells of the main deck, I run 2 Enemy Wall, basically for milling the deck. Doesn't always work, especially if the deck is more heavy spell-wise, because you do need to have a monster among the 2 cards dropped in order to nullify the attack and then gain a gauge. But really, it's just for milling. That's why I use it. That's why it's only at 2. That wraps up main deck. Off to sideboard. Sideboard's a little weak if you ask me, but it's a start. It's a start. 1 Bal Zam. I did say that before, mainly because I'm still kind of working with them. I do like the fact of basically gaining a gauge and drawing a card to basically a charge and draw off of him. So kind of easy there. Next, 2 Black Bard Ballots, counter destruction. It's in the sideboard mainly because I do feel it's a little costly, because you do also have to destroy a monster on your field to destroy a monster on your opponent's field, which I feel is a little too much, but it's still a great card to run, especially with the way Black Dragons are going now. I run 2 Death Grips in sideboard because monster destruction is great, especially since gauge is no longer really a problem in this deck. I love it, especially if I end up getting a more void-based go about it. I feel like it's a great way to do it. I run 2 Betrayer, basically to grab a set spell from drop zone and call it by paying its call cost. Only have 2, and they don't have a call cost anyway, so it's basically paying a gauge to bring back a Gate of Darkness Dragon or bringing back Nightmare Cage. Really nice. And to round out my sideboard, I run 3 Midnight Shadows. Because it's midnight somewhere. It's midnight somewhere, guys. That rounds out my sideboard. It obviously needs improvement. I just don't know what yet because there's so many good cards now out there for Darkness Dragon World, especially for Black Dragons. Let me know if you have any suggestions to improve the main deck and sideboard. I would love to hear them. Make sure to like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and if you are subscribed, click the little bell, so you get those notifications because you want them notifications. Otherwise, yeah, that's my Smoky Dragons. I love them, and stay classy, y'all. We want to thank our sponsor, Frost Giants Games, for making this show possible. Frost Giants Games is Wisconsin's game store of choice for board games, Magic the Gathering, and other card games. Check them out at www.frostgiantgames.com.